Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Joe, we're going to start with our first question from Kelsey Conway.
Hey, Joe. Just wanted to check in as you guys start your preparation today. How are you feeling about the rematch with the Chiefs and specifically the conversation you had with Patrick Mahomes following the game when he said, "See you in the playoffs," for that to work out? How are you feeling heading into this matchup?
We're excited about the opportunity. Obviously, a really good team. If you want to do the things that we want to do, that's a team that you're going to have to beat every single year. The AFC has run through them for 4 straight years. So, we're excited about the opportunity. We're going to have a great week of practice and we'll be ready to go.
Okay, now we're going to go to Mike Petraglia.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I wanted to ask you that you're about to play your 19th game of the season, 16 regular season games, 2 playoff games. How are you keeping yourself fresh? And is there anything different at this point of the year you're doing in terms of training to make sure you're ready for Sunday?
Yeah, it's a long season. But I think our coaching staff has done a great job of making sure that we stay fresh throughout practice. They're not running guys into the ground every single week in practice. Some weeks we're having a lot of walkthrough practices, a lot of mental reps. And then I think guys have done a great job of coming in on the off days, making sure their bodies are right, getting their lifts in. And that's really important in these long seasons in order to play well on Sundays.
Okay, next is Charlie Goldsmith. Charlie?
Joe, we've talked a lot about your connection with Jamar. Every quarterback receiver connection is different. Is there something that's maybe unique about your connection with Jamar that's maybe different from other quarterback receiver combinations in the league?
I don't think so. I think we just have a lot of reps accumulated together. It's all about how many times you throw a certain route with a guy and however many times you can talk through certain looks that you might see on that route from the defender, whether he's high hip or low hip or inside leverage or outside leverage. We just have probably more reps accumulated than a lot of people do.
Okay, next is Tom Archdeacon. Tom?
Yeah, Joe, I was wondering, with all the stops and successes you've had, Athens High and LSU, and now year 1 to 2 with the Bengals, what's the part that Ohio State, your time at Ohio State, played in this, and what lessons, serve you now from there?
Yeah, I wouldn't be the same player that I am today without, those trials and tribulations that I went through there. I loved my time there. I stay in contact with a lot of people from Ohio State. And like I said, I wouldn't be the same player. I think I am who I am because of, the difficult times that I went through in my career. And if you look at, all the quarterbacks that were in the playoffs, a lot of them have gone through, a lot of adversity throughout their careers, whether it was early on in high school without offers or after college not getting drafted high or, having to go to junior college or anything like that. I think, part of what makes certain people great is the adversity that they've had to go through.
Thank you.
Next is Wayne Box Miller. Wayne?
Hey, thank you. Joe, you're going into a stadium that is reputable for the noise and things of that nature. I wanted to know what college stadium gave you that same kind of experience and how that will help you going into this game. And I'll say thank you in front.
In the SEC, every single week, it seems like that, every stadium is really loud. There's hundreds of thousands of people. This one is going to be similar. We expect it to be really loud. We're talking about it throughout the week. We're going to have to be great with our communication, our nonverbal communication, just like every week on the road.
Michelle Steele at ESPN. Michelle?
Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I think we all know at this point, this is a Chiefs team that can be just really explosive. How important is it for you guys to come out fast on Sunday? And is that something that's been a little bit more extra emphasized, especially in the postseason?
Yeah, you always want to get out to a strong start, put some points on the board early and kind of control the game like we have the last 2 weeks. You can't let a team like this get out in front of you because then, they put a lot of pressure on you on defense. they're going to blitz you and make you, uncomfortable back there if you get down. We got down 14-0 in the last game, and it's not exactly where we wanted to be at that point in the game. We were able to fight out of it and ended up winning the game, but we'd like to have a stronger start.
Next up is James Rappian. James.
Hey, Joe, quick two-parter for you. The first part, CJ Uzama mentioned that the headset went out, which we noticed, but you had to call some of your own plays last week. Have you ever been in that position on the road where you kind of had to ad-lib it, and how long did you have to do that?
No, I've never been in that position before. That was kind of exciting for me. Zac always kind of jokes that, hey, don't pretend like the headset goes out so you can call your own plays. But, on Sunday or Saturday, the headset did go out. And so I had to call 3 or 4 plays on my own, and, all of them worked. So that was fun. Given that you had to go on the road, Nissan Stadium, it was really loud. We were there. It was really loud. Is that beneficial going into this week? It might not have been as loud as Arrowhead's going to be, but is that beneficial for the offense as a whole? Yeah, I think every week when you're on the road, you have to be ready to be great in your nonverbal communication. And, we went through it last week. We've gone through it, certain points of the season. So we've been really, really good on the road. We're going to have to be good again this week.
Okay, next up is Aditi Kinkabwala. Aditi.
Hey, Joe. I was talking to T. Higgins about how you are always so level. And he said that only Jamar Chase can get you angry or riled up. Is that indeed true? How does he do it? And are you always like this? Like, are you always that calm? Are you always that cool?
Yeah, I try to be. I think as a quarterback in this league, you can't have these highs and lows. You're not going to be able to be successful. The season is too long. You're going to have losses. And if you get down on yourself, you're not going to be able to perform the next week, and you're going to have, really big highs. And if you ride those highs, you're going to eventually come crashing down. So you really have to stay level-headed throughout the entire season. And, games are just a microcosm of the entire year. And so as far as Jamar goes, Jamar, we've been together for a long time, so he kind of knows how to get under my skin every now and then.
Okay, next up is Jeff Hobson. Jeff.
Joe, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Hubs?
Good. Hey, I wondered if you could talk about the balance between holding on to the ball and trying to make a play. And, you've made so many plays, on instincts, and you've had to hold the ball. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Is that something that you keep learning about? Did you learn something on Saturday, or can you talk about walking that line between holding it and making a play?
Yeah, that's always something that, you have to take into account. You can't, Saturday was disappointing on 2 plays. 2 of the sacks I took when we were in field goal range, and one of them got us out of field goal range, and Evan, kicked a longer one than he should have needed to. So those 2 plays were disappointing to me. I think I've been pretty good all year about, understanding when I can extend a play and when I just need to throw the ball away. Sometimes you're gonna have to hang in there and try to make a big play in certain parts of the game. And I think I've been good at that all year. Like I said, those 2 plays last game were disappointing.
Next up is Ben Volin. Ben.
Hey, Joe, congrats on the playoff run and getting this far. You're coming back from a pretty significant knee injury this year. And, a lot of guys in the past, they say that it can take them up to a full year to really kind of gain that confidence back in their knee again. Where are you in that? And just kind of how do you feel overall with the knee injury this year?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I had less confidence on it earlier, but I would say that I wasn't able to do certain things that I had been able to do in the past, like make people miss in the pocket and extend plays. I really couldn't do that until, after the bye week is when I started to finally feel like myself. And I think that's when I started to play my best football.
Next up is Charles Walford. Charles.
Thank you. Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Charles?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Just one, obviously 3.5 weeks ago, you played the Chiefs, and Jamar Chase had one of those days. And then on Sunday, the Chiefs managed to shut down Stephon Diggs quite well. how important is it that sort of T and Tyler are prepared and ready to be the main man this week in the way that Gabe Davis stepped up for the Bills?
Yeah, I think that's what makes our receiving room great, is not only is every single person in that room able to have a game like that, they don't get upset if they're not the guy that has that kind of game. So Jamar could go for 0 yards and T and TB combined for 300, and Jamar would be just as happy as if he had a 250-yard game. I think that's very unique to us. I don't know if a lot of receiving rooms in the league have that, and I think that's what makes those guys great.
Great, Joe. That's all the time we have for you today. Thank you for your time.
Awesome.
Recording in progress.
You can unmute now, Jeff. Zach, we ready?
Yes, ready to go.
Zach, who's our first question? Jamar's here.
Hello, Jamar. We're going to start with Mike Petraglia. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, Jamar, how are you? You hear me?
Good. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Obviously, the last time you played the Chiefs, you had a couple of huge catches, 3 huge touchdowns. But my question for you is, why do you think it is Joe Burrow has his best games or his biggest moments when the chips are down, and how much fun is it for you to be a part of that?
Yeah, I feel like Joe's always been, has that chip on his shoulder. Growing up his whole life, even through the transfer portal, he's always had that chip on his shoulder. So, he wants to be in those situations. He embraces them. He's ready for them. That's why he works so hard off the field. I feel like, he prepares for those situations. That's when it comes down to.
Next up is Charlie Goldsmith. Charlie.
Jamar, when you played the Chiefs last time, they pressed you a lot. They also did your celebration once after a pass breakup. Did you notice that in the moment? And what was your reaction to that? And was that a part of the game you ended up having after they started off that way?
No, I didn't see that until after the game on social media.
Okay, next up, Emmanuel Morgan. Emmanuel?
Hey Jamar, you wore a Dreamathon shirt a few weeks ago, honoring Joe Burrow. Why do you do that? And then what do you think those shirts kind of say about the brother and the NFL?
Yeah, Bruce sent those shirts, get us to support him. Also support Joe Burrow. A lot of receivers going to wear it, but I think they was giving out fines before the game if we had it on. So I just put mine underneath my jersey. And underneath my pads and pull my pads up. But, just showing that, we support him, we was on his side. We believe in him, we just, making sure his confidence is always high, like he wants ours to be.
Next up, Wayne Boxmiller. Wayne.
Hey, thank you. Jamar, when you were drafted, Joe Burrow told us, physical gifts aside, you were very bright, had a high football IQ. Where did you learn that, and how were you able to just bring that into your success this first year? Thank you.
I'll say, that grows over, the intelligence of high school football, trying to be advanced in high school. I went to a private school, so, I learned a lot more there than some other systems in where I grew up at. So, once I got to LSU, that helped me out a little more with reading stuff, learning plays. So everything just got a little easier once I got to LSU. And then when Joe got there, Joe started showing me the coverages and how should I read, film. So it just got improved. I just improved it every year, once I met new people.
Kelsey Conway. Kelsey?
Hey, Jamar. Andy Reid said when he was talking about you this week that you're one of those guys that's not 6'4", but you play like you're 6'4". Do you feel like you play bigger than you actually are?
Yeah, I guess. I feel like I play my size. I feel like I play all around my size, Doesn't matter. Tyreek Hill plays 6'10".
Do you feel like that's a compliment to you when someone says that?
Yeah, it can be, yes.
Next up is Safid Dean. Go ahead.
Jamal, what's going on, man? I feel like if there's one teammate of yours that might have swag and confidence, just like you and Joey B, it's Evan McPherson. What is it about your kicker that gives him confidence and lets you guys have some comfort when you come off the field, knowing that he's so automatic?
Yeah. Evan's a cool guy. I'm always messing with him in the locker room, calling him Little Bro and stuff, even though he's older than me. So me and Evan are real cool. Me and him are always chatting it up. But he works. It looks like he, when he's at practice, kicking those kicks every day, he's not, really missing them a lot. So, when we see that at practice, we take it to the game. We expect him to do it in the game. So his confidence is high and our confidence is high watching him.
James Rappian. James?
Jamar, how did the Chiefs play Stephon Diggs over the weekend? And do you expect them to give you any different looks or treat you like they did Diggs?
I didn't really watch what they was doing to him. I seen a little bit, sometimes they played a little man, kept it regular on him. I don't really know what to expect. I expect a lot, what I'm saying, coming into this game. But, it's really about adjusting on the fly once the game comes. So we'll see when the game time comes.
Okay. Next up is Jeremy Roush. Jeremy?
Hey, Jamar, talking with your dad and Joe Burrow's dad last week, I said the one thing, and your dad said this, Jamar, the one thing you can't do is tell Jamar or Joe that they can't do something. That's going to end poorly for the opposition if you do that. When did you first notice that trait in yourself, Jamar, that if someone told you couldn't do something, I don't know if you have a story or anything where you noticed that happened and it fired you up?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a story either, going back that far. It's just been always, I could tell you honestly, one of my best stories ever. Les Miles told me I couldn't play receiver when I was coming out of high school. So, that was something I had on my shoulders growing up. Les Miles told me he thought I could play cornerback. I wasn't really in full position at receiver yet. So, I just kept working in my craft off season, waking up early in the mornings to work out. I just kept focused.
Next up is Dan Horde. Dan, go ahead. Dan, I think you're on mute. Dan. Go ahead and we'll go now to Aditi Kinkabwala. Go ahead, Aditi.
Jamar, you talked earlier about how much you have grown since you started at LSU. What about this season, the highs and lows in this season? What's the biggest difference from week 1 in Jamar Chase in whatever week we're in, 2021?
Consistency would be the biggest key. Coming in off that year, starting off slow, trying to knock off the rust, and getting in my rhythm as the season goes by. It's just consistency that I have to prove over time.
Okay, we're going to try one more time with Dan Horde, and this will be our last question. Dan, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Jamar, 11 catches for 266 in game 1. Do you figure that you are the #1 priority for the Chiefs on defense this Sunday?
It's hard not to believe, but I could say that. They're great defense, great secondary. If Tyrann Mathieu comes back, it'll be a great game. Those guys are unbelievable. That's why they, won a championship that many times. So it should be a good game. Excited to play against them again. Can't wait to play.
Jamar, thank you very much. That's all the time we have.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
Good.
Hi, Vonn. How are you?
I'm good. What's up?
We're going to go ahead and get started here. Our first question is going to come from Ben Baby. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, Vonn, thanks for taking the time to chat with us today. I know it's a busy day for y'all. Sammy was talking earlier in the week about the Zac being better communicating with the defensive side of the ball this year. How have you seen that kind of manifest itself, and how is he? Can you think of any specific ways in which he's gotten better in handling the defense and talking to y'all than maybe he did when he first got here?
Just challenging the defense, going out there, just challenging the guys, playing harder, getting the extra turnovers and takeaways, and really just causing field position and creating explosives for the defense. So that's the way he's been communicating with us, and just really just going out there and having fun and doing what we do.
Okay, Kelsey Conway, go ahead, Kelsey.
Hey, Vonn, I wanted to ask you about the extra defensive meetings you guys in the secondary started this year. Whose idea was it? When did it start? And when do you guys meet? And just exactly what do you guys go through in that meeting?
It starts on Tuesday, but it's been a collective effort. We push for that. They know I'm here early all the time, but it's really a collective effort. Guys we switch out who brings the breakfast and whatnot. So it's really a jump start on the game plan and who we're going against and how we're going to get attacked. And on first and second down, and we have the coordinator come down. We have our position coaches come down. And I really asked them what I need to show the group and how can we get started on the week so we get a jump start for Wednesday.
You feel like it's made a difference?
For sure. because we don't have to really talk about concepts. We can talk about how we can make plays throughout the defense and what they're giving us. So that's the biggest thing, how getting a jump start of the week.
Next up is Mike Petraglia.
Hey, Vonn, how are you doing?
Good.
Wanted to ask you about Lou Anarumo. And when you're taking on a complex offense like the Chiefs with so many weapons, what is it about Lou's ability to communicate the keys to containing their defense that makes him so good at what he does?
Oh, man, he's a scientist. Always have the method. Always trying to put us in position to make plays and take away their strengths and make them play left-handed. And really just trying to take away their threats. And that's what he does well at, and putting guys in position to make plays. So he always having some formula in his head. We try to diagnose that throughout the week and make it easier for us to play faster and put us in a situation to make plays. So, hats off to him, always putting us in position to make plays.
Thank you.
We're going to go next to Dave Lapham. Dave, are you there?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, Vonn. In the first matchup, you hold Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce to a combined 65 yards on 11 catches. Those are the two guys that people have had problems with in terms of controlling them. You guys did. What was the secret?
Really believing in the plan, trusting one another, trusting into the plan, and really going out there executing just high level communication, pre-snap and post-snap. Diagnosing the formation, knowing where the guys are at, and just taking away his threats. And that's the huge part. And me and Jesse back there just always over communicating and just being the umbrella of defense, and just really just staying on top of everything and making them play left-handed and making the other guys try to beat you. So, hats off to the guys. They're being in there studying the breakdown and the game plan, and the guys just all in. And that's what it takes to win games like that for sure.
Michelle Steele. Michelle, go ahead.
Hey, Vonn, how much does it help you guys that you basically just saw this offense a few weeks ago and you guys saw Patrick Mahomes, and what is kind of the top thing to remember about playing this offense technique-wise and Mahomes and specifically?
It gives you a jump start for sure, but it's still hard. It's hard to beat a team twice, especially in that caliber. Those guys are always in the postseason, in the Super Bowl, so they always find out how to win. And that's what we're trying to do. And we just got to really just trust our keys and just really dive in deeply of what they saw on film last time of how they're going to attack us and what we left on the table. So we just got to clean up our technique and just really trust each other. Like I said, we have a high volume of communication, post-snap and pre-snap, and we're just going out there doing our job.
Next question, Charlie Goldsmith. Charlie.
You were in New Orleans when Joe and Jamar were at LSU. How closely were you following that at the time, and how closely is that to what you're seeing now?
We was worried about how we was going to win on Sunday, but the season was ecstatic. Both teams were winning, and man, we just try to bring it home too. So, but it was very close. But it was hats off to those guys because they got the job done and bringing it home. So,
Safid Dean, go ahead.
Hey, Vonn, how's it going, man? I wanted to get your thoughts on just maybe what was it like for you watching that Chiefs-Bills game tonight as a defender? Are you kind of wondering about if I was in that situation, what I would do, or are you kind of just sitting back and looking at all the guys on offense, like, is it hard for them, to stop?
It's a little both, You really enjoying the game. You've seen how a great defense going against a great offense. I think they finished up one in every category this year. The Bills did, and just watching those guys going out there competing, going against a high potent offense as the Chiefs. Just seeing how they're going to match up and how they're going to execute and win situations. The third down and the red zone and 2 minute, last minute in the game, in the half, and just going out there just really trying to learn from them. And so you learn from that, and you don't want to repeat history. And you be like, man, I really want to show the guys this the next day so we don't be in this situation, because always in the games like this, always go to the wire. You've been seeing it week in and week out with us. It's always going to the last play of the game on fourth down and field goal. So it's going to go down to the wire, and you never want to make mistakes. You always want to learn from them. So that was a huge learning point from this past weekend for sure.
Next up is Jeremy Roush. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Hey, Vonn, there's been so many people that have said this team is ahead of schedule. Even myself at one point this season said that, Vonn. But this team really has so many guys that are coming back in so many ways. Do you feel like this is really just the start of something special for this team, Vonn?
Jeremy, I can't think it like that, man. All I think about is we're in the now. And we always trying to win now because everybody's shelf life is small. We got I guess, really take full opportunity of the opportunity that we have right now and embrace the moment or where we at right now. So we can never look forward. We can only stay in the now. And that's why I tell the guys, go out there, because you never know what you could. It takes years to get to this moment. Some people don't get to it at all, be in their career. So I have friends that never been to this moment, and man, it's just we got to cherish the moment and really relish it. So just living it now, and really go out there, just play for it, and really just, like I said, embrace it.
We have time for just a couple more. Jeff Hobson is next. Jeff.
Vonn, how you doing?
Good.
Well, what were your thoughts when you saw Eli Apple make that play at the end of the game? What was going through your mind, and why has he turned his career here around? What has gone into that, do you think?
I say he made up for the play he should have made in the previous quarter. He shouldn't have had a pick. He's prepared for the big moment, and he go out there. I'm hard on him every day, and he go rise up to it. He go rise up to a challenge, go out there and compete at a high level, and he went out there and made the play. There's no doubt in my mind he can make the play. I'm always expecting him to win, and man, it's just hats off to him. He came here, bought into what the coaches and the culture, and he really believed in it and believed in himself. That's the number one thing, having the self-confidence, go out here and redeem himself. And it's just hats off to him, and it just really shows his resiliency and the character, the person he is. And he's going out there playing at a high level, and it's just hats off to him. And I want him to keep on going and keep on growing within the league. So, hats off to him, and I want him to keep on going in this game.
Thanks, Vonn.
Aditi Kinkabwala. Aditi.
Hey, Vonn. You said, that was a nice smile. Thank you.
Okay.
You said that after watching the Chiefs-Bills game, there were certain plays that you couldn't wait to show the guys. Which plays were those? And when you look back to the first meeting, are there any trends in how the Chiefs kept jumping up? They jumped up on you 2 touchdowns 3 separate times. Were they just 3 separate situations, or are there certain trends that you can clean up?
I can't really give away the secrets like that, but I can break it down to you. But some of the plays where they're doing their plays, they like, man, getting speed across the guys across the field. And that was some of the plays. It was the end of game situations of how the corners were playing off and just giving them free access to Kelsey at the end. And then to 10 at the end when he took that touchdown. And that was some of it. But some of the trends that they do, man, it's just, they got a surface pad that they see, and they see how we go adjust to certain things within their first 15 plays. And so they might show you something, and they're not going to throw it yet, but they're going to see how you really playing this look. And they're going to see, they be like, all right, next time throw it. So it's like the biggest thing is you got to adjust and adapt on the sideline and really lock into your assignment and know when the dead areas in the coverage at times. And because they go exploit those areas. So that's the biggest thing, hats off to them. They're getting coached great, and they go try to exploit everything that you miss. So that's the biggest thing that you got to really be on your P's and Q's about.
Next up is Dan Horde. Go ahead, Dan.
And you had one of the biggest plays in game 1, breaking up that deep ball for Tyreek Hill, and he's probably the fastest guy in the league. Do you consider the Chiefs to be the fastest team in the league, and what problems does that present?
Bless you. Yeah, they probably are. They got speed, they got Hardman, they got 13 Pringle, they got 10. It brings a lot of problems because it stretches you vertically. And because you want to take away these vertical threats and everything underneath, where you got McKinnon, number 1, you got 25 back, you got Travis sitting underneath in the soft of the zone. And it's just like, man, everybody's back deep, and he's just by himself, and that's how you create explosives within his play. And it's like, man, you got to respect the speed. Because it's like a road runner, we call them, and they just keep on just rolling. But you gotta respect it, and that's why this team is so dynamic. And you got guys like Harmon and Tim that can line up anywhere, backfield, anywhere. They could do punt returns and they could create explosive everywhere. So it's a unique group that they have, and it's a challenge for sure. But we rise up to it, and we're ready to take it on for sure.
Vonn, the last question is to Wayne Boxmiller. Go ahead, Wayne.
Hey, thank you. Vonn, you were brought in, one of the guys, because you were a winner. You played in winning organizations. If you were to give that speech on a Saturday night, what would you tell your guys?
We gave it last week, but all I said was embrace the moment and really cherish it. Go take the little things for sure. Really executing your job, your assignment, and really lean on your brother. We all that we got is all we need. And so, we all in together. We've been creating history, and we want to keep on making history and be legendary and leaving our legacy. And just really believe in that, and going in as a family, and then going in as that one. And that's the biggest thing. And guys really bought in that brotherhood, and we really bought in that culture. So we all in together.
Thank you.
For sure.
Great. Thank you, Vonn. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Zach, we're ready to go. Zach Gilbert, we're ready to go.
Great. We're ready for questions for Coach Taylor. First up is Kelsey Conway. Go ahead.
Actually, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Coach, you're on mute there. Got to take you off. Got it? All right, cool. Sorry, go ahead, Kelsey.
Hey, Zac, seeing the way the defense has played all season long and seeing what they were last year, how much do you think that individual players only meeting that the defensive back started this season on Tuesdays has helped? And can you give us a specific example of where you think maybe a meeting like that can help on the field?
Well, I think it allows them to communicate in their own way. They have a clear understanding of the scheme, that we've employed, and especially with Vonn and Jesse being here, especially the last 2 or 3 years, the linebackers. So then when you add Cheeto and Eli and Mike, they can have that meeting. And when we added veteran players, so that the scheme's not that much different from other places they've been. So I think it's good to make sure that the players are always on the same page. That's what we always say. As long as 11 guys are playing the same call, you got a chance to do something well, even if something's a little bit off or the communication's a little off, as long as 11 guys get the same call. And so I like that they've created that chemistry together where they meet on their own. I know the whole defense does that on Friday as well, and that's good to see from the players. You want them to have that ownership.
Next up is Marisa Contepelle. Marisa.
Hey, Zac. Over the last 2 weeks, it really seems like Jesse Bates has kind of played his 2 best games of the season. Just how much better is this defense when Jesse is playing at such a high level? And, what has it been, now that the postseason has started, that Jesse's kind of elevated his game a little bit?
I think Jesse's played good ball from us, for a while now. And sometimes the turnovers bring more attention to a player, but Jesse's obviously been invaluable for us. He's a big part of what we do, and you always rest a little bit easier knowing that Jesse and Vonn are out there on the back end to help you.
Next up is Ben Baby. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Zac. Hey, real quick, what's probably the toughest lesson that you learned in 2019 that has helped you maybe grow the most as a coach this year?
Just how important the relationships are. Because you're going to face adversity like we did in 2019. There's plenty of adversity we face this year. And again, if there's no communication, if there's no relationship amongst the coaches, players to coaches, then there's no real trust there. And there's it becomes much more difficult to get on the same page and overcome that adversity. And so I think that was obviously our hardest year. We were all getting to know each other. But I think that we did a good job getting to know each other as best we could in that short amount of time, and that helped serve us well, and it's helped serve us well over the last 3 years.
Is there a specific example this season where that maybe came to fruition, where all of those things that you learned that year, really played a part in something that kind of helped you out?
I can't necessarily give you a great example of that right now. Maybe if I have more time to reflect on it, I could.
Okay, next up is Charlie Goldsmith. Go ahead, Charlie.
Obviously, in the first Chiefs game, Joe and Jamar had a lot of success. What did you learn about what they can do in that game, and what was the biggest reason they were successful?
Well, they took advantage of some one-on-one opportunities, and it was accurate throws, good coverage awareness, and Jamar made some great plays. They were on the same page, against some of the zone coverages. Chiefs do a great job of employing a variety of schemes and, trying to keep you off balance. And I thought that Joe and Jamar did a good job being on the same page and making the most of their opportunities.
Okay, Charles Walford. Go ahead, Charles.
Hi, Coach. Thanks for talking to us. Just along that theme, obviously last week, Gabriel Davis had a great game for the Bills. Have you got T and Tyler sort of knocking on your door saying, why don't you scheme us in? It's our turn to get a bit of the glory, and obviously after Chase's performance last time.
I think that's really the beauty of Joe Burrow and really just how we organize the offense is we don't feel like we have to force the ball to anybody. The ball goes to where the coverage dictates with the concept. And obviously, over the course of the year, each of those guys have had their big games and their big moments. And there's been games maybe they've had 2 or 3 catches, but they were critical for us. And so that's why it's key to have such an unselfish group of receivers where they all know they're going to have their moments. There's going to be days where one guy maybe gets 15 targets and the other guys don't. But when the balls do come their way, they got to make the most of it. And I think that's just kind of a great picture of our entire locker room. It's just that receiver room and how unselfish those guys are and how much they pull for each other.
Next question is Dave Lapham. Dave.
Coach, when you were rebuilding this football team from a personnel standpoint to the draft and free agency, what were the non-negotiables from a character standpoint when you were evaluating these guys and thinking about adding them to the organization?
Yeah, gotta love ball. That's the most important thing. You want guys who, because it's a grind. We're here at the end of January. We've been at this since the end of July. It's a long 6 or 7 months, whatever it is. And if you got guys who don't love the game and don't love the process, then it's hard to get to where you want to go. You might have some great moments, some great games, but ultimately it's going to fizzle out. And so when you're adding, we had a draft class where almost every guy was a captain on their college team. So I think those are just indicators of the process that we go through and identifying the guys that we want in the locker room, guys that love ball and coincidentally they happen to be great people as well and have been great teammates.
Mike Petraglia. Mike.
Hey, Zach. I'm curious, during the week when you, Joe Burrow, and Brian Callahan go over the game plan, how much of that actually gets applied during the game? And how much do you see Joe going off script because the situation or the defense dictates that?
I think, just looking at the call sheet we had against the Chiefs last time, we probably got 40-50% of the normal down calls called, and so if you just look at it that way, it's obviously you're going to adjust as the game goes to how the other team's playing you. So that's just kind of an indicator of how much you carry into a game and how much you actually get run. Certainly Joe's got the freedom to check whenever he wants to. We have built-in checks oftentimes where he's got 2 or 3 plays that are packaged together and he knows the looks he's supposed to get to each one. But the thing with Joe is you trust the prep work that he's put into the week, and you trust that if he ever sees something that he wants to get to, as long as he can get 11 guys all on the same page very quickly, I love to see that because that means he's got confidence in something. He's going to make it work. If he knows the responsibility that comes with going outside the box, and he's earned that, and I like to see it.
Wayne Boxmiller. Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you. Coach, as this team has gone into the playoffs, you've continued to play well week over week over week. What do you look at and point to as something that has really been significant in that success?
Winning the turnover battle. Really, the last 6 weeks, we've been best in the league recently at that. And that's something we've hammered all season, obviously. But I think it's no secret when you got more possessions than the other team, you're taking away red zone opportunities like we did last week from Tennessee, then, we're giving ourselves a better opportunity to win the game. And we feel like we got a good enough team that if we're going to steal possessions, we can take control of the game. And I think our guys have just done an outstanding job of that in all 3 phases.
Thank you.
Next up is Michelle Steele.
Hey, Coach. It's been a big theme this week. I know that you've addressed it somewhat already, but ultimately, is there one key? Are there several keys to keeping Joe clean against the pass rush on Sunday?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that play into it. Starting with me, putting him in the best position, putting our guys in the best position to block the other team and be prepared for pressures and all that kind of stuff. So we spent a lot of time and effort talking through that. Some games it's great. Some games we're going to need to improve. And, certainly we put a lot of time and effort into making sure that we can have the cleanest pocket possible for Joe on Sunday.
Okay, next up is Laurel Failer. Go ahead, Laurel.
Thank you. You've said nothing surprises you about Joe, but taking away maybe what you know about him as a person, how remarkable is it for you or for your quarterback to come back from a major knee injury like this and just overcome what he has this season and get you guys to this point of playing in an AFC Championship?
Yeah, he really has overcome that. That's been significant. I'm sure there was a lot of uncertainty on his end as well on how he was going to respond. He wanted to respond the right way, but he'd never been through something like that before. So I think it has been impressive, the way he's played this last stretch of the season, particularly now that he's felt fully healthy. And again, he doesn't, we never take him for granted, but there's a lot of really impressive things he does that maybe aren't as impressive to us anymore because we're just used to it. And that's kind of his standard is greatness. But again, we do step back and always take a moment to appreciate what we've got there at that quarterback position.
Next up is Jeremy Rauch. Jeremy.
Hey, Zac, I wanted to ask you about Joe Mixon. We know that his personality is very infectious around the team. He spends around what feels like 20 to 30 minutes throwing the ball with fans pregame a lot of the times. Do you notice that about Joe? And what does that say about his character that he does take that time to do that with a lot of young fans?
Yeah, I think Joe's always been tremendous with the interactions he's had with the community. And, I don't really pay much attention to that pregame. I know it happens, but it's not something I pay a lot of attention to. But, my kids go to his summer camp in the summer. Those pro camps they put on, and he always does such a tremendous job with those kids. And so that's kind of my window into him interacting with the community and a bunch of younger kids that really look up to him. And he's any interaction he's ever had with my two boys has been awesome. They've got Joe Mixon fat heads and posters all over their room. And so I think that's as good of an indicator as anything of how the Taylor household views him, and that's usually a pretty good window into how the rest of the community looks at him as well.
Next up is James Rappian. James.
Coach, I have a two-part question for you. First part, have you ever had a quarterback have to call his own plays, and what's that like on the road as a play caller?
Yeah, absolutely. The headset, when we were in Miami, it felt like the headset went out all the time, and so Tannehill would have to do that. And you always have to be prepared for that. Joe did a really good job. There was probably a 3 or 4 play sequence there where he had to call his own plays because it went out, and did a great job managing that and finding completions for us. And you really like that because you get a window into his brain on what he really likes in that go-to moment. And there was no surprises there, I would say, but he found his completions. He helped us move the ball down the field. It's something we'll always be open to. I think as further seasons go and he gets even more experience in the league, that's something you want the quarterback to be able to go out there and call 4 or 5 play sequence, and keep the defense on their heels and let Joe assess what's going on defensively and get us into the right looks. And, you don't always want to do that because he's got to go through a physical play and you got to be thinking, then you got to process, okay, what's the down and distance and do we run or pass here? And so I think it was good in the dose that he did it. But it's certainly something in the future that he'll have the freedom to do and do for longer stretches than he's done at points this year.
And speaking of the defense, how different on film is this Chiefs defense from when you played them on January 2nd?
Same month, so again, their identity is our identity. It's got them this far. It's got them to multiple Super Bowls. So I don't think there's any shock there. Everyone's going to have adjustments. There's oftentimes you play divisional games and there's some tweaks and modifications there as they play you a second time. Same on our end. But again, they've got tremendous players. They got a great coaching staff. They do a really good job putting them in position, putting pressure on the offense. So again, we'll have to have our plan in place and then be ready to adjust as the game goes.
Next up is Aditi Kinkabwala. Go ahead, Aditi.
Zac, we talk so much about when a team has playoff experience versus players that don't. When you're facing a coach who has coached longer than you've been alive, how do you mitigate that? And do you get any anxiety about that? That, you know, he's seen every play that could possibly ever have been played. What do I do?
I've got so much respect for him. You're right. The experience does factor in. You know, he's experienced a lot of situations, and he's probably learned from every single one of them. And then there's certainly a calmness on his end, I would imagine, because he's been there, done that. He's been there, done that with this group of guys at the same time. But on the flip side of it, we spend a lot of time and effort talking through situations with our coaching staff, and then figuring out which ones we want to incorporate with our team as well that we present to them. And so, again, I've got a lot of faith in our communication process and our players being able to handle difficult situations that come up on a moment's notice at the end of a game or end of a half or critical moment. I think we've been a really good situational team this year. Our players have handled that. And so I've got the confidence that we'll be able to handle those moments in big games like this.
Okay, time for just a couple more questions. Next is Dan Horde. Go ahead, Dan.
Zach, the Chiefs have scored 42 in each playoff game. It's obviously one of the best offenses in the NFL. Does that force you to change your approach at all in terms of play calling, going for it on fourth down, et cetera?
You know, we'll have those conversations. We've already had some. We'll have them as the week continues. You know, those are things we'll keep a little closer to the vest. But it does change on the opponent, on the quarterback, on the defense, on the off. There's a lot of things that factor in, the punt returner, the kick returner. So we'll take all those in, and we'll make the best decisions for us as we get to Sunday. But we all know they're an explosive team. They can score on a moment's notice. We feel like, you know, we can put pressure on teams as well.
Okay, and our last question today goes to Kelsey Conway. Go ahead, Kelsey.
Hey, Zach, could you give us an injury update for the group and just the state of the team heading into practice today?
Yeah, I think Josh Tupou, Stanley Morgan, Cam Sample, those are the guys that are limited or will rarely practice this week. I wouldn't rule any of them out at this point in the week, but those are the three really that are worth conversation.
Okay, Zach, thanks very much. We appreciate your time. That's all we have for today.
You spell your name wrong, Zach. We got to get that fixed.
It's my parents' fault.